Well, put your seatbelts on. We're getting ready to start a new series. And what's the title of the new series? The Other Side. And it's continuation of the series that we began in Mark with Road Trip with Jesus. And the road trip now goes to a different dimension. And what's the dimension? The other side, okay, the other side. Now, in a time where many pastors are dumbing down the message so that people can understand the lowest basic common denominators of truth, in this church, we're going in a different direction. And so, because you're a special congregation, and I actually believe that you can rise up to the challenge, we're going to be talking about a topic, especially when we deal with the issue of the other side, that is going to delve at times into the philosophical, at times into the metaphysical, but what we're really going to be doing is answering some of the deeper questions that humanity has had to face. And so today's sermon is called Altered Realities. Okay, can you say that? Altered realities. Because one of the things that the Bible does, it's almost like a portal that opens up not just the reality that we're living right now. Now, pinch yourself, okay? Pinch yourself. This is our reality. This is the materialistic reality we live. What the Bible does is it opens up the door to another reality. And so we have fantasy and we have all kinds of imaginations of people going to another parallel universe. And so today we talk not just about a universe, but we talk about a metaverse. And we talk about a pluriverse. And now we got telescopes that are telling us that there's stuff out there that we have no clue about. And so we have to deal with these issues. Now, I don't know about you. There's plenty of stuff that's at the simple level that we can talk about. But I do believe that at some point we have to address the bigger issues. And I do believe that at some point you're smart enough to actually deal with this. And so we're going to be going in a direction that in reality, I'm teaching a class now on world religions, and one of the reasons why humans are religious is because of this issue of the other side. What happens when you die? Is there life after death? Is there another parallel universe? Is there another bend to time? Is there something beyond what we know? And ever since early man, they started talking about the shadows that they could see on the wall that represented the realities that they could not see. Now, I'm not going to get into Platonic philosophy or anything like that, but what I am going to tell you is that this is old stuff that we're talking about, and we're still talking about it. So today, in this passage, we're going to address three altered realities, three changes in our materialistic world that seem to open up a doorway into another place, into another time. And so Mark chapter 9 presents for us these realities for our consideration. And so many times we read it and we just read, it's just a little story. There's a lot more than just a story. And this is where you're going to have to think through what Mark, the gospel writer, is trying to teach us. So if you have your Bibles, open it up, because we're going to be looking at these three altered realities. Now, just so that you know, an altered reality is an event where our notion of our reality is altered or interrupted or changed by another reality different than ours in specific ways. Did I confuse you? So an altered reality is another reality just as real as ours, but one that we just simply do not know. Some of us don't even believe that it exists. And some of us are wondering, is it or not? And so we look at Mark, okay? The first altered reality is the altered reality of the Transfiguration. Okay, we read the passage. Do you get it? Do you believe this? I mean, seriously, as we read in the passage of Mark 9, 1 through 13, the three disciples, and who were the disciples? Peter, John, James, okay? The three big shots, okay, if you want to call them that. And so they're invited by Jesus to go up a mountain, and scholars are still trying to debate what mountain he actually went to. Some people say it was Mount Hermon. Some people say it was Mount Tabor. He went up to a mountain. And up there, something happened. So they're going on a little picnic up the mountain, maybe a camping trip, an overnight trip, and it turns into an altered reality. All of a sudden, what happens? Welcome to the twilight zone. And then all of a sudden, Jesus starts glowing in the dark. Woo! Now, I don't know what he looked like, but he was glowing in the dark. I mean, he was, what does it say? He was transformed. He was transfigured. In other words, the reality that we're preaching right now, it wasn't there. It changed. All of a sudden, Jesus is glowing. All of a sudden, it says that he became dazzling. His clothes dazzled. He was extremely white, as no launder on earth could whiten. So much for Tide, right? You know? And so here is not only Jesus glowing in the dark, but reality gets altered even more because two little friends show up. Now, these friends had been dead for years. They weren't been, it wasn't like they were dead 3 days ago. They've been dead for years. And one of them is who? Moses, the lawgiver. The other guy is who? Elijah, the prophet. Two characters straight out from the biblical narrative. And Jesus is not just talking about them. They're there. And these three guys are what? And so reality is altered. And then Peter, who knows not what he's saying, I mean, it even says in the text that he did not know what he should say. So he just says, why don't we make a little shack? We put a tent for you, a tent for Elijah, a tent for Moses, and let's all be happy. He didn't know what to say. He didn't know what to do. He was in shock. And then to top it off, reality gets altered again. And there's this cloud that covers this place. Now, if you've been to Israel and you see Mount Hermon, it actually happens. You see the clouds on top and a voice. Now, it wasn't just a cloud. I mean, clouds happen. Clouds happen here. But the voice. And so this is an altered reality. This is a seam that seems to open up something from another place. And now we're like in the X-Files with Agent Mulder and Scully trying to figure this one out. A voice. And what does the voice say? Let me see if I don't want to sound like Darth Vader, but this is my beloved son. Listen to him. Now, I don't know if it was a squeaky voice like mine. I don't know if it was it's God talking. How does God sound like? This is an altered reality if you've ever. And so these guys, they are freaked out. And when they are about to take this all in, boom! Everything disappears. And they're back to where they were a few minutes before. So reality was altered back. How many of you believe the Bible? Okay, no. How many of you believe the Bible? How many of you believe that what's in the Bible is true? Okay, well, here's a test for you. Do you really believe this? Do you really believe in an altered reality? Do you really believe in the stuff that comes out in shows like The Twilight Zone? Do you really believe that Jesus glowed in the dark? Do you really believe that he was transformed into a white, translucent being? Now, many scholars and theologians say that what he displayed was the glorified bodies that we're all going to enjoy when we go into that altered reality. Because this junk that we're wearing, it doesn't go over very well. So it turns into dust, and then we get a new set over there, and the new duds seem to be really nice. And then to hear the voice of the God that most people believe does not exist. And all of a sudden he says, here I am. There's my son. Listen to him. How would you respond? How would you respond to the reality that is altered in this event like the Transfiguration? Well, they didn't know how to process it. And what's worse is they're coming down the mountain, and what does Jesus say? Hey, guys, I know you're freaked out, but what? He ordered them to tell no one what they had seen until the Son of Man had risen from the dead, the ultimate altered reality. They couldn't believe what they had just seen, and he's telling them, hey, the Son of Man is going to be risen. I'm going to come back from the dead. And we're dealing with this. We're processing this, okay? And so in this chapter of Mark, he goes from one altered reality to another altered reality because they're coming down the mountain. They're talking about, are you Messiah? If you're Messiah, we just saw this altered reality thing. And Elijah is supposed to come first. We saw Elijah there, but he hasn't shown up down here. And Jesus said, guys, you missed it. Elijah already came. The forerunner, the precursor, the prodromos, the one who's coming before me, he came, and they did whatever they wanted to him. And then they understood he was talking about whom? John the Baptizer. And John the Baptizer shares many characteristics with Elijah. So Jesus tells them, hey, everything's by the book. Elijah already came, and nobody paid attention to him. And so then they come down, and they see a large crowd, and what was the problem? Everybody ran to greet him. And then he said, what are you arguing about? What's the big problem here? And one of the crowd, there's always somebody out of the crowd. Teacher, I brought my son to you, and he has a spirit. What kind of spirit? An evil spirit. What kind of an evil spirit? A demonic spirit. Now, how many of you believe in that? Now, people that read this, they say, no, this kid, now listen to what happens. He has a spirit that makes him unable to speak. Whenever it sees it, it throws him down, and he foams at the mouth, grinds his teeth, and becomes rigid. I don't know about you. How many of you have seen an epileptic attack? It looks a lot like that. I've had friends of mine that had epileptic attacks in front of me, and it's scary. It's an altered reality almost. And so you see this, and so there's no control. And today we say, oh, that's an epileptic attack. But what if I told you there's an altered reality in front of us? The reality of the demonic that lives in the darkness of the other side that we can't see with our eyes, but that exists nevertheless, and all of a sudden they break into our reality. And so there's a demon taking over this kid, and it's making him do all these horrible things. And so the guy goes, hey, I brought him to your disciples, and guess what? They couldn't drive it out. This is an unaltered reality that needs to be altered. We want to change this. Jesus, these people from the other side have come and invaded our world. How can we make it stop? How can we stop this? And Jesus, now listen to what he said. It almost doesn't make sense. You unbelieving generation. What does believe have anything to do with this situation? What didn't they believe? Did they believe that there was not another side? Did they believe that they could not alter it? What was the problem? And he says, how long will I be with you? It's almost like Jesus is griping, I can't handle this anymore. Bring him to me. So they brought him to me, and when the spirit saw him, it immediately convulsed the boy. He fell to the ground and rolled around, foaming at the mouth. And so this kid is having this episode. That's what they call them, episodes, right? Whenever you hear the word episode, it's not nice. And so this poor kid's having this episode, and he's foaming at the mouth, and he's rigid, and he's uncontrollably shaking, and he's just, and he's gritting his teeth, and he's spitting, and he's screaming. And here's Jesus having a conversation. How long has this been happening to him? Now, it's almost unreal what Jesus is doing. And so the guy is going from childhood. And many times he has thrown him into the water and into the fire. But if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us. Jesus, there's nothing I can do. There's nothing anybody can do. There's no doctors. There's no medicine. There's no nothing. This is it. Evil has come into my world, and look what it's doing to my kid. And there's nothing I can do about it, and your amazing followers couldn't do diddly squat. And Jesus reacts. And what's Jesus' response? Because this guy is almost like tempting Jesus. But if you can, if there's anything you can do. And what does Jesus say? If you can. And it's interesting because it's hard to translate. And the idea is Jesus is almost laughing. Jesus is saying, you're telling me if I can? You're telling me if I can? Seriously? And then he said something that we don't even believe. We don't even think it's possible. Everything is possible to the one who believes. How many of you believe that? Huh? Well, that's just, gobbledygook. That's positive speaking. That's just something that you tell yourself to pull yourselves up by the bootstraps. Did you catch that? If you can, of course I can. Why? Because everything is possible to the one who believes. And he had just condemned them because they were an unbelieving generation. And so immediately the father of the boy, who's at the edge of his reality, he can't handle it anymore. He says, I do believe. Help my unbelief. And I like the way the King James translates it. Help thou. Help you. Help my unbelief. How many times have you prayed that? I have to be honest and tell you, I've prayed that a bazillion times. I say, Lord, you told me to believe. I believe. Help my unbelief. What did Jesus do? When Jesus saw that a crowd was rapidly coming together, they saw the show. This is getting good. He rebuked the unclean or the evil spirit, the demonic spirit, saying to it, you mute and deaf spirit, I command you, come out of him and never enter him again. And it came out how? Shrieking. Ah! I love to do that. But think about it. If you're an unclean spirit and you're about to be sent straight to hell, how are you going to go? Huh? All right, Jesus, bye. See you on the other side. He went out screaming. But the reality is he went out. He went back wherever he came from. And they said, the boy's dead. He's dead. The boy would look lifeless. Looked like a corpse. But Jesus, taking him by the hand, raised him, and he stood up. And so it was a huge miracle, an altered reality between the world of evil and the world of good, between the darkness and the light. And the light overcame the darkness. The Son of God spoke, and the demon ran. And this altered reality closed. Just like it closed at the end of the Transfiguration, it now closed, and they're all back to being the normal reality again. And the disciples say to Jesus, why couldn't we do it? You told us we had authority. You told us we could. Why couldn't he? And Jesus said, hey, guys, this kind can come out by nothing but prayer. And some translations add fasting. And so we have chapter 9 present us two altered realities. Now, do you really believe this? Do you really believe that Jesus glowed in the dark and that a voice came from heaven and said, this is my son? Do you really believe that Elijah and Moses showed up? Two people that had been dead for centuries. Do you really believe that a demonic being was sent back straight to hell? Do you really believe that Jesus spoke the word And because he believed, everything happened the way he said it. Do you really believe that? And do you really believe that this is what Mark's trying to tell us? Mark's just telling us a little story about, hey, look what happened. That brings us to the third altered reality. So we saw the altered reality of the transfiguration, that Jesus changed, and all that came with that. We saw the altered reality of an exorcism, the good, the bad, the evil, the perfect holiness of God, the darkness, the light. You saw how that, that envelope closed. And so then you have the altered reality of your life. Now, Mark is talking about us in here. You don't see it, right? He's telling you, do you really believe this? Do you really believe this Jesus transfiguration thing? Do you really believe that the demon ran and this altered reality was changed? What about your life? Are you all there is to you? Okay, grab yourself, pinch yourself. Is this all there is to you? This bag of bones and skin? Is this all there is to you? What's between your little ears and this fatty little mass that we call a brain? Or this muscle that we call a heart? Is this all there is to you? When you die, are you done? Is this what you want to see? Are you stuck in this reality because you don't have the faith to believe that there is a possibility of an altered reality? Just like Mark shows us. And so, what if Mark is telling us much more than just a story? What if this story goes beyond our sense of touch, of smell, of taste, of sight, of hearing? What if we want to get to the other side and all you have to do is believe? It sounds too simple. We need something else. We need a Ouija board. We need some type of incantation. We need some type of talisman. How can you just believe? What if Mark is calling us to see and join the other side? Now, our reality has been altered by sin. Something happened. Something happened in Eden, and God's perfect plan was broken, and something really nasty, dark, evil came into this world and changed us. And we don't even believe that we have this virus. Most people think it's just human nature, not an invasion from outside, from another reality. And so sin has changed everything in a negative way. And so Mark is inviting you and me to peek into another reality through the gospel. He's saying Jesus is the bridge. You know, that's what priest means, pontifex. A bridge into the other side. And so Jesus is portrayed as the one that goes beyond the window of this thing we call our reality into another alternate reality presented by the gospel. Think of the possibilities, okay? Beyond COVID, beyond wars, beyond disease, beyond evil, beyond the demonic, beyond depression, beyond poverty, beyond your intellectual limits, beyond your human reach, into another reality that's very different than the one that we have. To another perspective, to another revelation of truth, to another possibility, to the edge of your reality, and all that's pushing you is faith. What is faith? But believe in the unseen. Wow. And so what would this reality look like? What would keep you from living there? Are you happy with your reality? Are you happy where you are now? Oh, yeah, I'm on my pathway to death. I already have. We had a picnic, and we had two ladies that were selling insurance for dying. It'll cover all your funeral costs, so your family doesn't have to worry about it. You pay for it now. Well, that's great. And then what? Nothing. You just get your little dust in a bowl and you do whatever you want with it. Fertilize the world. Is this what you're waiting? Is this your end? Is this what you want to be, fish food? Is this all there is? Do you believe? Maybe you don't. Maybe you're saying, Dr. Lema, this is all in your imagination, and we respect your religious views, but this is not true. Science does not believe this, and scholars do not believe this, and there was no transfiguration. It was an altered reality for them, because God knows what they ate. They ate some mushroom or something, and it made them alter their reality. There's no demonic beings. It was just an epileptic attack, and all Jesus did was he applied pressure point to the hand of the boy, and all of a sudden it created a change in him. That's it. There's no altered reality. This is just a book of stories. Nice religious stories. Okay, but here's the question that I'm asking people now. What if you're wrong? Blaise Pascal, the great mathematician, had this wager. He said, what if you're wrong? You don't believe that there is a God, but what if you're wrong? If I'm wrong, what do I lose? Nothing. Maybe some face, egg on my face. But if you're wrong, what if you die and there is an altered reality and there's someone waiting there to judge your life for your sin? What are you going to do then? You lose. And so, do you believe? Because Jesus says that to he who believes, all things are possible, including surviving death. We're going to talk about that again. Including surviving life. And let me tell you something. It's easy to survive death. You just close your eyes and, oh, Jesus. Okay? But surviving life, when they tell you have cancer, or when they tell you that you're going to lose a limb, or when they tell you that your son or your daughter is hung out on crack cocaine, that's a different story. And so the question is a simple one. Do you believe? Now let me take you through the altered realities. Do you believe that Jesus was transfigured and that a voice spoke? Do you believe that this demonic being was exorcised by Jesus? So then the next step, it's even easier. Do you believe that it could happen in you, in your life? Do you believe? Because to he that believes, all things are possible. Wow. Now, I know you might think I'm crazy, but I believe. I believe. I really, really believe. I'm not afraid of death because I believe in an altered reality. I'm not afraid of life because I believe in an altered reality. I believe that all things are possible to he who believes. I believe that all God is asking us to do is to understand and say, okay, I get it. I believe. God, you're right. Jesus died for my sins on a cross. He was raised from the dead. And because of that, I can see. I can smell. I can move into the other side. And so, lower your head. And all I'm going to ask you is just to pray. Say, Lord, I don't know how Jesus was transfigured and two dead people showed up right beside him. But if the Bible says it, I believe it. I have never heard the word of God out of a cloud, but if the Bible says it, I believe it. I have never seen a demon jump up and run straight back to hell because of the command of one man. But I believe And I believe that all things are possible to he that believes. Not because I believe it, but because the guy who said it is believable. Lord, I believe you, Jesus. And so, Lord, I come before you and I give you my life. I believe that there's more to this life. I believe that there's sin in this world that's affecting everyone and everything. And I believe that there's an altered reality on the other side. And you're the one that made it all possible. And so, Jesus, I believe that you are the Son of God. I believe that you're the one that paid for my sins. I believe that you're the one that died for humanity. And I believe that you rose from the dead so that we who believe can cross into the other side. And so, Jesus, thank you. Thank you for the promise that all things are possible to he who believes. Now, Jesus, just like that poor man watching his son writhing in the ground, help thou my unbelief.